Hello, thank you for attending our webinar on the digital forensic investigation of smartwatches. My name is Anthony Wright. I'm a sales manager here at Compulson, where we develop mobile edit forensic, our digital forensic tool. And I'm joined here as well by Anthony Walsh, our training and technical consultant. I will be guiding the webinar over the next hour, and Anthony Walsh will be helping me out with the Q&A as well and answering any technical questions that come up in the chat. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our partners at Teal Technologies for helping us set up this webinar, and also for all the hard work that Megan and Kevin have put into the webinar with Cyber Social Hub as well. So without further ado, let's get going. All right, so the agenda for this webinar is going to be an introduction into mobile edit. Maybe many of you have heard of mobile edit in Compulson, but I'd like to introduce you to again as well. Then we're going to go into why you should look at smartwatches as a source of typical potential forensic data. And then we're going to go into the specific devices that you're able to get data from. We're going to go over the hardware that you need to connect to these watches, the connection to those watches, the extraction, and then the reporting and the file systems that you're going to encounter with these smartwatches as well. We'll do a brief introduction into Dive computer forensics. While slightly different than smartwatches, they're still going to be a wearable device with their own unique category of data. After that, I'll go into the future of smartwatch forensics, kind of where we're going to go from here. And then I'll go through some case studies involving smartwatch forensics from, I believe they're mostly based in the United States. I'll go over some additional information, and then to end off, we're going to do the Q&A, get all your questions answered. And yeah, thank you again very much for joining the webinar as well. So an introduction into mobile edit. Our labs is called Compulson Labs, and we started with PC security in 1991. We started in the antivirus industry, and then in 1996, we got into phone forensics. We were actually one of the first phone forensic tools on the market, and we actually started out with doing SIM card forensics back in the day. We develop a number of different products, such as phone copiers, phone managers, things like that. But what we really focus on here is mobile edit forensic, which is our forensic tool for cell phones, cloud services, and of course now smartwatches. Our headquarters and development is in Prague, Czech Republic. All of our developers are there, technical staff, and that is where me and Anthony are broadcasting from as well. So I talked about the focus of mobile edit slightly. We began with phone forensics back in 1996. We haven't left them behind. We're still doing phone forensics. We have a variety of ways of bypassing different lock screens and getting different data, and that will be the most popular use of mobile edit. Today, we're going to talk about the smartwatches, of course, which we started in 2021 with the Apple Watch, but is now branched out into a wider category of smartwatches. And we're doing cloud services as well. I will have a list of all the webinars available on our website. So if you want to get more information about the phone forensics or the cloud forensics, I'll have the address at the end of the webinar as well. But for cloud services, we focus on common services like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Teams, so on and so forth. But for this webinar, we're going to keep our focus on the smartwatches. And so why smartwatches, right? Now, if I was giving this presentation in person, I would have everybody raise their hands. Who has a smartwatch, right? And usually I get around maybe 25, 30% of the attendees will raise their hands. And then I say, how many people, at least if they don't have a smartwatch, know someone with a smartwatch? And at that point, everybody's hands go up. And that is why we're focusing on smartwatches. They're becoming much more pervasive throughout, especially North America, Western Europe, and all over the world as well. So when there's all these devices being sold, there needs to be a way to investigate them if there is data there that can be found as well. So just to give you an overview of the smartwatch market analysis in 2022, it was around 33 billion US dollars, and they're estimating that it's going to go up to 130 billion in 2029, which I think is actually a low assessment. I think it's going to be much higher because if we were just talking about the North American market, it's going to hit or projected to hit 26.35 billion USD by 2024, and then almost 100 billion by 2029. So I think that number of 130 billion is a bit low, especially if we're talking about, you know, the worldwide, right? So you can see here that there's a massive increase in North America of smartwatches. And so with that increase, you're going to need a way to investigate that as well. So if we're talking about why they're expanding in North America, is because there's a growing concern for personal health and fitness among all demographics, right? So people are more worried about, their heart rate, their fitness. It's easy to track, your exercises, your activities, and also with that growing concern for personal health and fitness, you're getting an increasing incorporation and acceptance of smartwatches into everyday life, especially among millennials. But it's not only limited to millennials, right? Now, even older generations are also adopting smartwatches for those reasons, for personal health and fitness as well, right? And so, with that increasing incorporation and acceptance, smartwatch companies have introduced a wider range of monitoring capabilities like notifications, alarms, music control, auto sleep, and other functions. So the functions are increasing, more people are buying them as well, right? And so, why are we investigating smartwatches? They're going to be the most popular wearable device. I'm wearing AirPods right now. That could also be considered a wearable device, but the smartwatches are going to be the most popular by far. Um, the information is going to be much more personal than a phone, right? So we're talking about heartbeats, we're talking about GPS locations, speed, things like that. And as mentioned, yeah, the heartbeats, which can detect times of stress or death as well. But also, even if you don't have the phone, you're still going to be able to get some data from that smartwatch, right? And you'll also be able to get deleted data that is no longer present in the phone. And market growth, as mentioned before, like we're going to hit nearly 100 billion USD in the next 4 to 5 years. Um, Along with that increasing popularity of smartwatches, they're becoming much more prevalent, but they're also becoming cheaper and more powerful, which is going to be more attractive to consumers, right? I don't know if you remember back in, I believe it was 2015 when the Apple Watch first came out, it was a higher end product. Not everybody could afford an Apple Watch. But now, because it's becoming cheaper, more powerful, there are options that aren't Apple, that aren't Samsung, that are going to be able to sell their products to all social strata as well. And anyone with a smartwatch can connect to those smartwatches, which is going to make it easier for all consumers around the world to access, not only in North America. I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that doesn't have a smartphone. Everybody with a smartphone is a potential user of a smartwatch as well, due to that connectivity. The data is going to be unique. As I mentioned before, where you're able to get heart rate data. If people are wearing it to monitor their sleep, you're going to get sleep patterns, right? And those go into the category of biometric data with that continual wear. And typically, the locations that you're getting with a smartwatch are going to be detailed. Usually, people wear the smartwatch on their wrist. They're not putting it in their pockets when they're going out. They're not putting it in a bag. They're keeping it against the skin on their person. And because it's generating this unique data, you're going to find data that's not in the person's phones, which is going to give you an insight into the person's physical state and finally establish a pattern of life for any owner of that smartwatch, right? So if you really want to get a good look at the person's life, how they're living, health situations, sleep patterns, things like that, a smartwatch might be the solution to that as well. They're also discreet. They're less conspicuous than phones. Users might be more careful with phones. They might be using encrypted apps. They might be, leaving their phones at home if they're up to no good. But they might not be as cautious with a smartwatch. And I have a good use case at the very end to back this up. But yeah, they might leave the phone at home, but still wear the smartwatch. As I mentioned before, when you're using a smartwatch, the purpose is to have it act as a watch, to have it on your arm, right? So, and a lot of people aren't thinking of smartwatches, or maybe not the average everyday person is thinking of smartwatches as a way where they can, that can capture data from them as well. That could later reveal something about themselves as well. Um, they can complement phone forensics. So not only if you don't have the phone, it'll also complement each other, right? So if you get the data from the phone, you get the data from the smartwatch, you'll be able to compare and contrast the data that you're getting as well. If the data is deleted on the phone, it might be available on the smartwatch. And of course, the cross verification will strengthen your cases as well. Um, the reason that we're doing this for the smartwatches, it's not only because it's a source of data, is we're giving you a new avenue for evidence collection, right? So the Code of Practice to the Criminal Procedure and Investigations Act of 1996, this is a law in the United Kingdom, but I believe that it would apply to the United States and or Canada as well, that investigators conducting an investigation should impartially follow all reasonable lines of inquiry to gather material which points both towards and away from a suspect, right? So what we're giving law enforcement is a reasonable line of inquiry, one that they might have not had before, one they might have not even thought about before, and that's our mission here at Compulson as well. So how are we doing this, right? This is going to be our smartwatch forensic solution. We have Mobile Edit Forensic, which is our software solution for both cell phones and smartwatches. And then we're going to combine it with our smartwatch forensic kit, which is going to give you all the connectors that you need to connect to different types of smartwatches. So if we take a closer look at the kit, it's going to contain all the components that you need to connect to Samsung, Apple Watches, and Garmin's as well, right? So let's take a deeper dive into the smartwatch kit. It's going to have the all-in-one Apple Watch readers, Series 0 to 5 and SE, and that's going to be right here on the side over here. It's going to have one Garmin Forerunner cable, which is going to be right down here. It's going to have the Garmin ViewActive Fenix cable. This is going to be right here. We're going to have the Samsung reader for the watches 2 to 4. The reason that we're doing 2 to 4 and not 1 to 4 is that I think you'd be hard pressed to find a Samsung Watch 1, but we'll go into that in more detail later. And then we'll have one Samsung reader for Watch 5 and 6 as well. So these are going to be respectively here and here. You're going to have all the adapters for all the different types of Samsung watches, and you have the red on top and the black on bottom, respectively. And you're going to have one pair of pointed tweezers, one screwdriver, also bands in order to hold the Samsung watches into the readers as well, and the screwdriver to help you take apart the Samsung watches. Now, let's go through the different brands of smartwatches that we support. Our newest addition is going to be the Samsung Galaxy Watch. Now, if you're not familiar with Samsung Galaxy Watches, they are Samsung's answer to Apple's the Apple Watch, right? So these are going to be higher end phones, at least, or higher end watches, at least the newer ones, and they have probably around $300 to $400 a piece. And just some information about the Samsung watches. They're either going to be Tizen operating system or Wear operating system. We support a majority of models, except for the one that I was talking about. And we're accessing them via special readers via the diagnostic port. Now, these readers are proprietary to Mobile Edit. We developed them in our labs. And yeah, it's a very unique product for the market as well. You must know the PIN. Similar to an Android, you have to enable developer mode and USB debugging. And the data that you're able to get from the Samsung Galaxy watches was actually surprising to us as well. You can get contacts, calls, images, audio, documents, other files, applications, notifications, and also lots of deleted data as well. So contacts, calls, and notifications. So here is a sample report of the Samsung Galaxy Watch. This is going to be the Mobile Edit Forensic report, right? So here you can see the Samsung Galaxy Watch right here. It's going to be the 3, the 45 millimeter. You can see the platform is going to be the Tizen, which is, fun fact, is also used by Samsung Smart TVs, and we'll go over that file system in a second. You can see here that it is not rooted and there is no SIM card present, right? We actually developed a method for rooting Samsung Galaxy watches and bypassing the lock screen. For right now, we have it functional for the 4, and we're still working on getting this functionality exported to the North American market as well. So here's a quick look at the backs of some smartwatches or some Samsung Galaxy watches. What you're going to need to do is remove the back plate or the dust cover, the back plate being here. And what you're going to do is you're going to connect the board to the pins present on the reader. Once those connect, you'll do a USB-C out to the computer and then extract the data using mobile edit. So you can see here we have a picture of the different watches with their different adapters respectively, and how it looks when it's in the reader as well. So we take the watch and we clip it into the adapter, and then there's that hole in the adapter that's going to protrude ever so slightly, and it's just going to make a slight contact with the back of that board. Now, once you connect it into the reader, you'll just do a USB-C out here, and you'll have a logical extraction of that Samsung Galaxy Watch. Just some information about the supported models. We do Samsung Galaxy 2 and 3, 4 and 4 Classic, 5 and 5 Pro, 6 and 6 Classic is currently in development and will still be released as well. We can do that direct connection that I was talking about. We can clip it in, do the USB-C to the computer, extract it through Mobile Edit, or you can also extract it to Mobile Edit, dump the entire watch, and then import that back up into Mobile Edit Forensic. So we support both methods of the extraction and analysis. So just for some fun information, here's the Tizen OS file system directory hierarchy. So this is where we're getting our information from the Samsung watches themselves, right? And you can see here there's plenty of space for images, or destinations for images, videos, music, documents, different types of browser information, photos, of course, sounds, games, ringtones, downloads, and others. I won't get too into the file system hierarchy, but this is just an example of the different artifacts that we can get from the Samsung Galaxy watches. It's a little fun information. And this is all publicly available online as well. So you can go, and if you're interested, Google Tizen OS file system directory hierarchy, and this will pop right up. And you can take a deeper look at it and see, just explore it a little bit more. It's really interesting. So another major watch that we're supporting is the Garmin smartwatch. If you're not familiar with Garmin's, I believe they started as GPS systems for cars, and they moved into fitness watches, right? Now, the thing about Garmin's is that they span the entire social strata, because you have models that are going to be $100, and then you have models that are going to be $1,000. And the type of extraction from each model is going to be the same, just different chords depending on the price level, right? And these are also very popular fitness watches. And one of the best things about them is that you do not need a pen to extract that data. So just a look at the types of data that we can get. We can get the user profiles, user weight progress, activities, detailed information about laps, routes with maps, extra heart training or extra heart rate and stress monitoring, training plans, workouts, courses, heart rate zones, etc. So you can see here that it has a lot to do with the fitness and the fitness aspect of the Garmin's, which absolutely it does. Here is how it looks like when it's connected to a Mobile Edit Forensic Pro. You can see here it has the Garmin View Active 4 on the bottom left here, and we have it plugged in as well. Now we can plug it in directly, which is really nice, with no input of a pin. Right? But you can also do the Garmin backup. So there's a XML file in there that maps the entire Garmin. You'll be able to put that onto your computer, take it out, import it into Mobile Edit Forensic Pro, and you'll be able to get the same exact data as you would with a direct extraction as well. So it's also a useful way to get data from Garmin's. Now, here's a look at the activities and the user profile. You can see the height, gender, weight, language, active time, sleep time, heart rates, and different types of activities as well. So we have swimming, when it started, when it ended, how long it was, how far it was, how many calories they burned, their average speed, the top speed, and the heart rates down here. Now, when I'm talking about someone's pattern of life, this is what we're really talking about. Is you get to see exactly where people are doing things and how they're doing them. So, but we also have a GPS mapping function as well. So, me and my one of our other technical consultants, Michael, we went to Switzerland for a conference with one of our other partners back in yeah, that was just last month. It was in February. So, and we decided, wouldn't it be fun to grab a Garmin watch, strap it on, and measure our progress a little bit. So we go here. You can see just right here. We're right above Zurich. We have 397 data points in that area. So let's zoom in. So you can see here, we're in the small, well, I would say it's a suburb of Zurich. It's called Rushkillian. And you can see, okay, we have 155 here, 196, and then 46 down here. Each one of these is going to represent a number of data points, right? So, and you can see it's really not that long of a distance. So we must have been moving pretty slow. If we keep going in, you can see, okay, all right, so you're getting a little bit more detail. We have 33 right here. We have 80 here, 44 here, 32, and 94, and with some other ones down here. And this is where the conference was at. So while we were climbing up this hill, I'll tell you right now, it was a pretty steep hill. Each one of these data points is where we took a break. You can see because it generated those data points in such a small area, you can see where we actually stopped, but the watch actually kept generating different data points. So let's zoom in a little bit. We're going to zoom in to this 94 right here because it's the biggest amount of data points. It's going to look the most impressive. So you can see here, this is all the data points that we generated just from that stop at the top of the hill. Um, and you might say, okay, all right, so we have 94 data points. What do they have? This is what they have. They have our latitude, they have our longitude, they have the time that this was recorded, the altitude, the speed that we were moving, biking. I think you accidentally pressed bike. We were actually walking. Our distance so far, we were at 277 meters, and his heart rate, not mine, his, was 144 beats per minute. I think I found one with 150 beats per minute, but it was a pretty steep hill. But very importantly, it's going to have this source file, right? So it's going to be the Garmin activity 2024 27 12 31 08.fit. Now, I have a slide in here talking about fit files, but that's where we're getting our data from when it comes to GPS locations from Garmin devices, right? Which will come up in a second. We support all models of Garmin, including the GPS navigation systems that I talked from earlier. We also they have GPS navigation systems for bikes. We support those as well. And as mentioned, we can do the direct connection, we can do the import file system, or we can do that import backup similar to that Samsung Galaxy Watch as well. So fit file format. It's a GIS file created by Garmin Sports wearable devices, and it is used to record the activities of the person when the user moves wearing these devices. And what it does is it records the location, the time, as well as heart rate and other similar fitness data, right? And it's the most commonly used file format for sharing fitness data, even with other fitness platforms. Strava uses it as well, and other wearable devices. I believe Fitbit does. So you'll actually, these are the GIS files that are the standard for sports wearable devices as well. And you can find a lot of information on fit file formats at the following links below, and there's plenty of information on the Garmin website as well. Just to take a look at the file content, right? So we have the file ID, the activity, the session, the lap, and the record. The record is where we're going to get most of our information that we're using, right? The GPS coordinates, the speed, the distance, heart rate, power, etc. Right? The laps will also be very useful. You'll get the start time, elapsed time, timer time, and the timestamp, and some sessions and activities as well. Now, where are we finding them, right? So here's the Garmin, here's the file system. You can see I extracted the device of the Veo Active 4, and you can see the activities are right here. Now, one thing that you'll notice about these fit files is that they're pretty small, right? 81 kilobytes. Um, like we were at a conference in Germany a couple years back, Ant and I actually, and we were allowed to extract the data from a smartwatch of a police investigator from Germany who was a pilot, right? And we pulled off, I think it was maybe 200,000 GPS locations just from that fit file, and you can actually see his plane going all around central Germany as well. So these devices can fit hundreds of thousands of GPS locations, right? If because they're never deleted unless the user goes in and deletes them themselves. A lot of times the user doesn't know where they are, they don't know where they would even search to do that, and they wouldn't even think about it. It's discrete. So Garmin watches, if you're able to get one and you want to investigate it, it's a really good source of data as well. And just to go over the cables, we have what is called respectively the old Garmin cable and the new Garmin cable. The new one is going to be for newer Garmins, especially the Garmin Fenix. This is going to be the highest quality Garmin that you can get. When we're talking about those $1,000 models, that's going to be the Garmin Fenix, the Sapphire, the 7X Sapphire Solar goes for $900 easy, and some other ones down here as well. This is going to be for the Garmin Forerunner, the Approach, the VO Move, the HR. You'll still see some of these Forerunners around, maybe not so much these ones, but they're included in our smartwatch kit as well, even though that they are the Garmin cables. So if you're at a crime scene, you don't need to, search around for the charging cable. You can just take the Garmin and go. If you have the smartwatch kit, and we'll have those cables in there for you as well. All right, so now everyone's favorite watch, the Apple Watch. If you're not familiar with the Apple Watch, it's probably going to be one of the priciest watches on the market today. Very popular in North America, typically to be used within the iOS ecosystem, and also a hot topic for smartwatch forensics, as I believe Apple Watch has at least 50% of the market share in the United States, if not more. So let's get into it. So just to an overview of the information we're able to get from the Apple Watch, we have the device info, we have the user ID, MAC addresses, and software version. So this is important if you need to find out whose Apple Watch it is, where they buy it, and you'll be able to find all that information. Check with Apple, and you'll be able to find the purchasing information about that as well. With the Apple Watch, you're going to be able to get application lists, photos with metadata, voice recordings, files, and notes. So we were actually, when we started investigating Apple Watches, we had one of our colleagues bring in one of his old Apple Watches, and he didn't think there was anything on it. And lo and behold, we found a bunch of photos that he'd actually deleted or thought he deleted years before, right? So it should perfectly sync with the iPhone, but sometimes that's just not the case. So if you get an Apple Watch, it's always a good thing to see if anything's been left over. And how we're connecting to it is going to be these Apple Watch readers, right? So we have the iBus right here. We have the Magic Word, and then we have the S Block right down here. The one that we're using is going to be the S Block. We've tried all these different models, and this one is absolutely the best one. It's going to have the most secure connection. With this one, with these, you have to put rubber bands around them in order to hold them in place. But the S Block down here is going to be the best option for that. And you can see here an Apple Watch plugged in to the S Block. Some information. We support series 0 through 5, and then the first generation SE. Now we think we have found a solution to extract data from new Apple Watches going up to the Ultra 2. But they have no ports. They're completely wireless. So we might have a solution, but please stay tuned. It's in development at the moment. Just for some prerequisites for successful connection to the Apple Watch, you must have the special diagnostic readers to access that data. You're going to have the iBus, or we recommend the S Block. That's going to be the best option. What's nice is that you do not need the paired iPhone, but you must know the password. Unlike Garmin's, you absolutely have to have it. When it's plugged in, you have to be able to confirm the trust, and in order to confirm the trust, you have to know the passcode. Just a bit about the Apple ecosystem, of course, because it is an ecosystem. You can get watch data from the paired iPhone as well, which I'll talk about in a slide or two. You can get the watch data from the iTunes backup of the iPhone paired with the watch, but you can only get the Apple Health data from the Health app on the encrypted iPhone or iTunes backup, or from iCloud as well, which I'll talk about that in a second. The Health app is where you're going to get the best information that's coming from the Apple Watch. So going over the file system, you're going to have application 0, application 1, RAW 0, RAW 3, and miscellaneous, right? So we're going to have for application 1, it's going to be the applications and their data. Below is going to be special content, logs from apps. The RAW 0 is going to be the whole phone file system. And below RAW 3, it's going to be the file system shared with applications, which is going to be images, music, downloads, etc. And then in miscellaneous, we have some temporary files as well. So I'll just do a quick run through of how the file system looks like for the Apple, right? So we have application 0, 1, miscellaneous, and the RAW 0, as mentioned before. And here we can see an entire list of the applications, which is going to be useful if you want to see what applications someone is using on their Apple Watch. If we check out the RAW 0, you're going to have the DCIM, iTunes control, photo data purchases and recordings. So that's where we're getting those photographs and those recordings as well. And the Apple Health data, right? So Apple is, when they created this health app, they're trying to give users a way that they can track every single aspect of their health, right? We're talking about sleep, walking steadiness, resting heart rate, activities as well, right? So every single thing about their health data, right? And so I'm not going to go into every single one of the options, but I have them all right here. It's going to be everything from height, weight, heart rate, steps, walking distance, how many flights someone's climbed, blood alcohol content, how many times they've fallen, inhaler usage, which has to be, many of these have to be inputted by the users. For instance, the Apple Watch isn't going to know how many glasses of water you've had today. You have to mark, okay, this is 1 glass, this is 2 glass, so on and so forth. But a lot of these, it'll generate that just on its own, right? So the walking heart rate average, it'll generate that for you actually. But not only is there that, but there's a whole lot more, right? So we're talking fatigue, nausea, the level of how loud your headphones are, right? Your walking speed, your walking step length, how long you're taking between each step. Of course, as necessary, how many times you brush your teeth, and walking asymmetry. I actually did an extraction on this on my own, and I don't have an Apple Watch, but my iPhone told me that I have a walking asymmetry, which I'm not sure if I should be worried about that, but anyways, I have one. And then other things like fainting, dizziness, heartburn, coughing, so on and so forth, right? So you can find a list of this online if you want to dive deeper into it. But as I was talking about before, when these smartwatches are getting better at tracking your health, you're going to be able to get that information as well, which could be a useful source. Right. So another smartwatch that we're looking at is the Alcatels and the TCLs. They both have their proprietary operating system. And with these, you can get accounts, contacts, groups, conversations, messengers, reminders, alarms as well. These are definitely a little bit lower end. I would be surprised if you encountered these in North America, but maybe somebody went on Temu or Alibaba or whatever marketplace is being used now for cheaper Chinese goods. That's where they'll have these. And here's just a look at just how the reports look. And there's just some reminders there from the Alcatels and TCLs, different types of reminders, and where they are located in the watches as well. Yes, so the operating system is proprietary, and we're able to do a direct cable connection for the extraction and analysis. Huawei's, which I am relatively sure you won't see any of these in the United States, but honorable mention, you're going to get the application list, GPS locations, activities, documents, files, and the system logs. And we support the Android Wear operating system, which Huawei devices use, and the direct cable connection is how we're getting this information. The Amazfits, they actually signed a major deal with Walmart. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but you might actually see these. These are basically just cheaper garments. Huawei is a subsidiary of, I believe it's Xiaomi. But anyways, they're a Chinese-based smartwatch, and from these you can get application lists, health, daily reports of your health, images, GPS locations, documents, files, system logs, and device infos. So Huawei might actually be one that you should look out for because they are in the United States as well, and or Canada. Right. So they have a couple different operating systems. They have both Android Wear and Zep OS. I believe it's still in development on mobile edit side, Zeb OS support, but we're made aware of it and we're working on it. For the extraction and analysis, it's going to be a direct cable connection, and the root access is going to be possible in some cases. Right. So a recent addition to Mobile Edit Forensic Pro is going to be the Firebolts and the Pebble watches. Now, if you take a look at these watches, you're going to see that they look very familiar to some other watches that you may have seen before. The hardware is basically just Apple Watch ripoffs. They're very, very popular in India, and we're able to get activities from these watches as well. I'm not sure if you'll see too many of these in North America, but we get the activities from them, and we do the extraction and analysis via Bluetooth. We actually trick the watch into thinking that it's connecting to a phone but instead it's connecting to mobile edit. It connects, we get that information, and we support both Pebble OS and Android OS as well. All right, so I mentioned computer forensics as well, which are also a useful source of data. Right, so here's all the dive computers that we support. The most popular brands are going to be the Aqualung, the Suento, of course, Oceanics, and Ares, with the other ones being behind that as well. And we support over 200 different types of dive computers. Now, not many digital forensic companies are advertising that they support dive computers, but as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, our job at Compulson is to give investigators as many lines of inquiry as possible, and giving them dive computers is just another line of inquiry, which is our mission here at Compulson. Right. So here's the dive kit. The dive computer kit will include all the cables, or not all the cables, but the cables for the most popular dive computers that you're most likely to encounter. And it'll have the cables for Suento, Oceanic, Aqualand, Mary's, Stinger, and Spider as well, which is, yeah, they're going to be the most popular dive computers that you're going to encounter. Suento being the most popular of them all. And here's going over a little bit of the data that we can get for the dives. We can get the date and the time, the maximum and minimum water temperature, the atmospheric pressure, the average and maximum depth, heartbeats, bearings, surface temperature, how long the dive is, and what the dive mode is. If they're going free dive without scuba equipment, they're doing a CCR, a closed circuit rebreather, etc., whatever dive mode that the individual is doing. And so you may have heard a lot of smartwatches that you did not know today. Right. So when we're giving webinars, when we're giving presentations, since we're based in Europe, we're getting a lot of information from a lot of different areas around the world, and we're integrating that into the software. So please, if you have any smartwatches that you need analyzed, or if you have any questions about different smartwatch brands that you have sitting around in an evidence locker, please let us know. Ant and I would be happy to take a look at it and to see, okay, is there something that we can do with this? What kind of evidence is on it? Because with smartwatches becoming cheaper, some countries are just mass producing them on scale. They do not care about quality. And as long as they look kind of nice, as you can see with that Firebolt and their Pebble, they're just happy to sell as many of them as they can. With all these being sold, you're going to get brands that you've never heard of. So that's what Mobile Edit is here to do, and we're here to help with that. So our current development, we are, of course, looking heavy at Fitbits. Those are very popular in the US and, well, North America. And that's going to be an app-based extraction. The Pebble has been crossed out because we've developed that. We're looking at Crossbeats, Polar, Color Fit Firebolt is crossed off as well, and then the Realmes, right? So as mentioned before, we'd love to add whatever smartwatches you encounter to our development, and that's part of what we're doing here at Compulson, connecting with investigators and seeing what they need. So going into the future of smartwatches, we've actually started doing physical acquisitions of smartwatches. Of course, you're going to need to know the professional lab and knowledge is required to do this. You can destroy them. You can do dismantle the device, and you can do ISP programming and chip offs as well. So this is where the future is going. When we're not able to get into these Apple Watches because they don't have ports, we're going to start taking them apart and see what we can do with it. Right? That's going to apply to any type of watch that we encounter. So going over some case studies. Now, probably our most well-used case study is the chef, runner, and hitman Mark Fellows. In 2008, Paul Kinsella was murdered in Liverpool, in the United Kingdom, and the police had no leads on whoever did it. So naturally, they took a look at the CCTV cameras, and they see an individual running in front of the bar where he was at over and over and over again. And so they go, okay, we're going to check this guy out. So they find him, and they find a Garmin watch in his room. Right now, the phones that he were using, if you remember the EncroChat phones, this was actually one of the biggest cases of a criminal using an EncroChat phone. They couldn't find anything on the phone, right? So they pick up this Garmin watch that he was wearing during the Manchester Marathon, this light green Garmin watch, and they find it in his apartment. They take a look at it, and they saw that he was actually staking out his targets by running, which was his favorite pastime, right? So he was a marathon runner, ran miles and miles and miles per day. And then they took a look at the history of the Garmin, and as I mentioned before, if someone isn't keeping an eye on those files, I mean, it's collecting all of the files, right? So they saw all of his running routes for the entirety of the watch's, well, not existence, but his possession of that watch. And they tied him to the murder of Paul Massey in 2015. He did the same exact thing. For 2 weeks, he staked out that individual and ran laps around it. Um, his associate was given 33 years in prison after turning state's witness, and Mark Fellows, was given life in prison. And this photograph actually appeared in a UK newspaper. I'm not sure which one, but it shows him wearing the Garmin watch, which the state actually used to attribute possession of that Garmin watch to Mark Fellows. Now, he Mobile Edit didn't have the capability to extract from Garmin watches in 2018, but if they had, they would have been able to see those GPS locations. They would have been able to filter it by time, and they would have been able to see, okay, this is where he's going. Another case is that a New York robbery crew used an Apple Watch to steal $500,000. They bought an Apple Watch, hooked it up to one of their iPhones, and placed it under the bumper of a drug runner of a rival gang in January 2020. They used that Apple Watch, tracked the drug runner down, and robbed him of $500,000 that he was carrying, right? But they forgot to remove the Apple Watch. So investigators, they find the Apple Watch, and they use that attribution information that I talked about with the Apple Watch to see exactly who bought it. And they were busted and indicted in July of 2022, not just for this heist, but for a string of alleged robberies from 2019 to 2020 as well. So on a bit of a sadder note, an Oklahoma man was arrested in 2018 after loaning his 11-year-old relative an Apple Watch filled with CSAM material. And in the watch, they found 1,500 images and 210 videos. Now, the way that investigators captured this evidence is that they took a camera, held it over the Apple Watch, and they either took pictures of all of those images and recorded all of those videos with another camera, right? So if you're using Mobile Edit to extract those images and videos, you don't have to manually flip through all those images. It's going to do an extraction on that Apple Watch, and you'll have all the evidence right there as well. So That is the core part of the smartwatch webinar. Just want to let you guys off with a little bit more info. Um, for Mobile Edit, just to go over the products and services that we provide, we have a smartwatch kit, a connection kit, a smartwatch kit, and as talked about before, we have Mobile Edit Forensic, Mobile Edit Cloud Forensic, and we have a camera ballistics program. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to match photographs to different lenses. So if somebody has a lot of images that they shouldn't have, you'll be able to see, okay, is this person a possessor or a manufacturer of those photographs? But not only do we provide software and hardware, we also provide trainings. We provide a phone unlocking service. We do expert advisory on cases, and we can help build forensic labs as well. As mentioned before, we have a lot of great webinars, and Anthony Walsh, my colleague here today, is the host and the speaker of these webinars. We'll go through everything with cloud forensics. We have smartwatch forensics, which is going to be the webinar that I just gave. If you want to check out what's new in Mobile Edit Forensic and Mobile Edit Forensics tips and tricks, that's going to be more of an intro webinar into Mobile Edit Forensic. We also have a great malware and spyware detection with Mobile Edit Forensic. We actually just detected a couple cases of Pegasus in Germany just a couple weeks ago. We do advanced application analysis if you want to learn more about phone security bypassing. And then, of course, evidence and digital investigations, advanced photo and image analysis, and very interestingly enough, iOS jailbreaking. So please visit www.mobileedit.com/webinars, and we just posted a new schedule, I believe just a couple days ago. So please visit the website, sign up if you're interested in any of these topics. All right, and thank you. We are going to open the floor to questions.
Great presentation, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've been answering some questions in the Q&A panel, and I know I can. Let's have a look. I could probably do that now. So Mo's asked, are we compatible for Fitbits? We are currently working on that. It's in development. It's a task for our developers at the moment. So they're working on it as we speak. So that should answer that one. Let's have a look at the others. Please do keep putting your questions in there. We'll answer them live or in the chat. There's somebody, Brian Vida, is asking for a very large police department. Do you offer any type of trial period? So I've asked Brian to get in touch via the contact form, mention the webinar, mention Anthony Wright, and I'm sure you'll sort him out with some demo licenses.
Absolutely. And just going off that, if anybody needs a demo license, needs more information, I don't know if I forgot to mention, I put all the PDFs and the flyers in the handout section. So please download those. And if you need any demos, just get in touch and I'll be happy to show you a more detailed walkthrough and send over a free trial.
Please do, because honestly, it's a fully working version, and you've got all the capability of Mobile Edit Forensic Pro, so you'll be able to do everything as the fully paid version. So it's well worth a try. I mean, the user interface is so easy, and you know, we're comparable to all the other tools on the market, but obviously we're specializing in the smartwatches and the clouds. And our security bypassing techniques are really, really pushing the boundaries at the moment. So we're really sort of catching up with those big players for a lot less money. Okay, so is it possible to brute force the pin on a Galaxy or Apple Watch? Now, I've answered this in the chat, and I'm going to have a look, see what I wrote. So basically, Apple, no. Apple ecosystem, iOS, Mac OS, iPad OS, whatever, Watch OS, it's all really, really secure. There are tools that can do it, but currently we can't do it. But certainly with the Galaxy watches, Samsung Galaxy, We can use some techniques, and we've tried it and implemented it for Samsung Galaxy Watch 4, and we're working on implementing it for more Galaxy watches, and also Amazfit as well. We can get physical images from. And when I talk about physical, I'm talking about unencrypted physical images, which once you've got them, you can then re-import them to Model Edit Forensic and do a logical extraction. So that's that one. Is the PIN always required? Is any obtainable, any data obtainable without the PIN? Any brute forcing available? I'm going to have to pass that one over to Tony because that is to do with our Pro Plus edition, which is going to be available within the next few months, if I'm right. Is that right, Tony?
Hopefully, yes. We have a Pro Plus edition, which has been open to the European Union. Because it has the ability to decrypt chipsets, it's regulated by the European Union, which makes it much more difficult to export to EU-friendly countries such as Canada, North America, Australia, so on and so forth. So stay tuned. We're hoping within the next couple months, within Q2, we'll be able to release it as well. And that will be, that's where we'll have our brute forcing available for the Samsung watches.
Just to give you a sort of bit of an overview of EU dual use regulations, basically it's saying that no technology can be exported from any one country inside the EU or outside the EU that may have dual purpose for lawful purposes or criminal activities. So, you know, it could be used for good or bad. However, there is a really good appendix to that legislation, which says there are a number of countries which we within the EU, we are, if we apply to export to those countries, we can automatically get exemption to export. So I know Canada's on there, UK's on there, US is on there, Australia. Basically, it's the Five Eyes: New Zealand, Australia, Canada, US, and UK. So definitely those countries will be able to get Pro Plus at some point this year. Just having a look at the next. A lot of these questions are actually very similar in theme. I'll put it up there anyway, but logical, can you do a physical file system too? I answered to Kevin that whenever we do an extraction or analysis within Model Edit Forensic, we always get a file system. But obviously that's limited with the logical because it depends on what. It's down to the permission security. So what the operating system or the manufacturer will allow us to get access to. So whatever we can get access to, we will extract, we will copy out of the phone, put in the report output folder, and you'll be able to view that at a low level. And I always recommend that in all of our webinars, is that, you know, software tools, commercial software tools, we can do so much, we can pass the data. But firstly, there's 2 points. One, you will need to verify the data that you are seeing in that report by going into the SQLite database. And secondly, we might not actually be parsing that data at the moment. So you might see unsupported applications. So you can just go into the file system, look at the SQLite database, and then manually inspect those tables and find your data. But if you do find an unsupported application, you can always use our application database, which is available on our website, and you can request support for an application. Can we extract data from a Xiaomi Band 8? Not currently is the answer, Leonas. But if we could get hold of one of those watches, then we can implement support for it. And I've already answered in the text chat or response. We'll have a look, and I'll get our technical team to have a look to see if we can source one locally and then get one and hand it over to the developers. we have a couple of new questions. Oh, wow. Let's just have a look at these. So this one, it's better to isolate the clock to avoid connections to the phone and the cloud. I guess you mean watch. Yes, with anything. Yeah, you always want to be isolating. Faraday bags, airplane mode. Don't leave any cables outside of any Faraday bags because they can still connect. And also be very, very aware that Apple now have the capability that even if something doesn't have Wi-Fi or GSM or CDMA connection, it can still connect with a watch through Find My and reset, delete, or whatever. So you need to be very careful to isolate all devices. Take it, close it down, lock it down, yeah, and then work out as you've done your investigation, and you can expand it as you go along. Since you need a password for, let's put this up on the screen. Since you need a password for Apple, is there a way to collect the passwords through a cell phone, computer, or account, or do they need to be synced? There is a way if you have the device. For example, if you have an Apple Watch paired with an iPhone, then we can extract passwords from the iPhone. And the same with Android devices, although in most cases you will need root access. So we need to use some sort of security bypassing to get to those passwords. But yeah, you can get out account passwords, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. English saying, I don't know whether it's widely used across the globe, but if you can't get it from the watch, try get it from the phone, try get it from the cloud. But Mobile Edit Forensics supports those three. It's a three-pronged attack with Mobile Edit Forensic. How about, this one I'm not too sure about actually. How about ODB2 programmers? Brian, can you just answer maybe a little bit more context in that? And I might be able to answer that live. Otherwise, I'll have to answer that afterwards. Yeah, if you're talking IoT and it's not a phone or a smartwatch or a cloud service, then no. But yeah, certainly please send me some more information and I'll have a look at that and try to answer that for you. Here we go, another one. Most of the iWatches I get, there's no pin. Is there any information available without the pin? iWatches, if you're talking Apple iOS or Apple Watch OS smartwatches, unfortunately not, unless you can get the smartphone with a backup and be able to create an encrypted iTunes backup. But with Amazfit and Samsung's Galaxy Watch 4 at the moment, yes, we could do something without the pin, but for the rest of them, no. But however, you've always got the opportunity to go through the smartwatch as well and extract the data and analyze it from the applications. Checkmate for iWatches, yes, I think it is possible, Brian. Okay, checkmate for iWatches.
I can actually contribute to this one as well.
Yeah, go for it. I'm thinking checkmate, no, but there are other jailbreaks for Apple Watches.
Exactly. So the thing with Apple Watches is that the versions are progressing so quickly, and there's actually, I don't think there's a way to downgrade the Apple Watch to a previous version. So I think there's a jailbreak for an Apple, I think it's the Apple Watch 3 with one of the security badges from 2018. But that's the thing about the Apple Watches is that it's so difficult to get those past versions onto it. But by the time they get the jailbreaks, they've moved on. That's the thing about Apple security. It just moves so quickly.
Yeah, series 0, 1, 2, and 3 are possible with some types of jailbreak. Whether they're forensically sound, I haven't actually checked. But from watch 4 and above, no, there are no known jailbreaks available. Thanks for that. Can Apple Watch unlock Mac and iPhones? Ooh, now you're asking a question, Josh. Joshua Mayers there. That is a challenging question. Can Apple Watch unlock Macs and iPhones? How can this feature be leveraged for our investigations? That is a very, very good question, and actually one that I'm going to put to our head developer, or one of our chief developers, who has a vested interest in iOS devices, and he would love that challenge. So I can't answer that at the moment, but maybe we can in the future. What's the next one? Oh, this is great. So many questions. Love it. Does the activity have to be triggered, started by the user in order for the watch to store the data? Specific example I'm asking. Yeah, well, it depends. This is the most favorite answer in all digital forensics. It depends. It depends on the type of device. It depends on the user settings. It depends on the operating system. But I know that when I walk to the train station every morning to catch my train to work, my watch automatically starts recording my journey, and I know that detail is recorded. And I've got a Samsung Galaxy Watch 3. Yeah, I did some testing a while back, a couple of months ago, with some Pebble devices, some Firebolt, some of the cheaper sort of Chinese, Indian manufactured devices, and they don't passively record. So you have to actually instigate the recording of data via the user interface. So I would say with Garmin, it's a passive recording. But if the user decides to switch it off, then they can switch it off. Any comments on that, Anthony?
Yes, actually. So I was talking to one of our other consultants, Michael, and he was telling me how we believe that Garmin might actually be constantly recording or randomly recording GPS locations in the watch, right? And so we're trying to figure out where they're storing that because it might be at a deeper level of access. Now, we've reached out to Garmin. Now, naturally, they don't want to give us this information, but that's something that we're starting to look at more carefully. They might be recording everything you do. It's possible. We don't know. It might be recording something randomly. It just might give a random GPS location. But we're working on getting that deeper access to the Garmins to be able to tell for sure.
I'm sorry, I'm just reviewing the Q&A. Thank you for that. Actually, going back to this one, I'm going to put this on screen as well. Hopefully, Brian's still here. Brian, if you could use the contact form, and maybe I shall put that in the chat. In fact, I'll put it in there for all of you. If anyone has any questions at all on anything smartwatches, smartphones, or clouds, or demos, whatever you want, then please do get in touch via this method, and we will be able to assist you. Where are we? I don't know whether that's going to work. No, it's just copied the text. I'm sure copy text only. Sorry, bear with me a second. Paste as plain text. There we go. Got it. Okay, so that's that one. Last question, I think, which is this one. Right, here we go. So who's this? Justin's asking, do I understand correctly that Apple Watch health data such as heart rate won't be seen in a dump of the paired phone unless an encrypted iTunes backup's used? Yeah, any sensitive data on an iOS device is going to be in the encrypted. It's one of our exam questions. If you're thinking about taking certification, is where do we get the most data from an iOS device? And it's always, without a jailbreak, going to be the encrypted iTunes backup, because encryption means security. Yeah, if it's unencrypted, Apple aren't going to give out any sensitive data. If it's encrypted, it's password protected, and therefore they can include more data, or they will include more data. So what the watch backs up to the phone, and it's stored on the phone, which is secure, and some data is exported with an unencrypted iTunes backup, but the majority of the data is exported with an encrypted iTunes backup. But there is some data that is only exported to the the iCloud backup. So yeah, you stand the most chance of getting data. If you can't get it from the watch, then you'll get it from the encrypted iTunes backup. Now with Mobile Edit Forensic Pro Plus, if you don't know the if you can unlock the device, but the iTunes backup is encrypted, we do have a brute force capability for identifying that PIN number or password from the iTunes backup. So yeah, Pro Plus has that capability. Pro Plus has the capability to enter the passcode if it's known for the iTunes backup, which means it will be encrypted, but we can decrypt it because we've entered the password. If that makes sense, hopefully I explained that correctly. Any more for any more? Any more questions, anyone?
All right, so I don't see any more questions. Do we have any more? No, it looks.
So there's only one question we haven't answered, which was about ODB2 programmers. But I will look into that, and maybe Megan, if we have contact details, then we can directly answer Brian afterwards as to whether we're able to do that or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for information, right here, you can see my email address down here, right at compulson.com. That'll get in touch with me directly if you want any demos. For Anthony Walsh and the rest of the support staff, it's support@compulson.com, which will go to the entire technical support team as well. So thank you guys for coming out to the webinar. I appreciate you taking time from your busy schedules and letting us talk about smartwatch forensics. And yeah, have a great holiday weekend, and thanks again.
Yeah, happy Easter.